Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Rimshots with Sean right here on the Rock Rage Radio Network, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk and Apex Drums. I have with me Colin Robey from Queen Horizon. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks. And yourself?
Good. Where are you coming to us from tonight?
About 20 miles outside of London in England.
Beautiful. And are you getting some good weather over there right now?
Yeah, it's actually been unseasonably warm for us. I'd say warm, but like it's warm by UK standards, but not.
So, I was in Ireland.
Okay, yeah.
It'll be 2 years ago next month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I remember it being really hot in August.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is that what you guys get over there?
Yeah. It's a real different heat though as well, and it gets quite like August. It gets kind of like really muggy as well out here. Like it's especially if you're in the centre of London, it's quite aggressive, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad.
All right. So tell me about Queen Horizon.
So Queen Horizon. So there's five of us. This version of this band, I think, is probably the best way to say it. It's probably been around for about 3 years. I say this version. So myself, Chris on guitar, and Mark on bass. We've been playing in bands together since the 90s. We kind of just after the lockdown, we weren't really doing very much, and I kind of connected with Kerry, the singer, and then we kind of pulled this together. We'd always been called Paste, which was the previous name of our band. Yeah. But for the first time, we changed it, to Queen Horizon, and so we were born, and off we go.
I want to bring something to your attention because I was just thinking about this. So I changed. It wasn't a huge change, but I took my studio and I moved to kind of kitty corner in the room. Mm-hmm. So you were the very first one with the new format. And not only that, you're going to be the 785th episode.
Well, there you go.
So we're making 2 bits of history here on Barstools tonight. So, so I always say this when I do these mm-hmm. interviews. However, for me to take my audience and introduce them to a new band, I play the comparable game. So I say, okay, if you were to say who you were like in terms of another band, who might that be?
So we kind of started off with Veruca Salt in mind, the 90s band, because we're kind of like alt rock, grunge, kind of Britpop type. We sort of grew up doing that kind of thing, and we always loved Veruca Salt, and we always had like a male vocalist in our band. Right. And then when we switched to a girl, that was the starting point. But we've kind of got closer to sort of like Paramore and stuff like that as we've gone along. But yeah, that's where we would start.
Well, and an interesting, gitchy kind of band. So I guess you guys put yourself into that kind of realm in terms of that. Yeah. So, and in terms of your writing, so over here in Canada, we have 2 distinct scenes. I'm guessing you're probably there to do too. It's either a cover scene or original scene. Sometimes they intersperse, but you guys are, I take it you're in the original scene?
100% the original scene. We're not good enough to play covers. That's all I've always said. Like, I just can't do it. I when you start off, and we started off as a punk band back like your early 90s, and then Nirvana and stuff like that. And you would try and play a few, but as soon as I started writing my own stuff, I had no real interest in playing covers. And like I say, I'm just not good enough to do it. So,
well, and I mean, that's fair, right? Because you point out something. I play in cover bands. I play original stuff. But people don't realize there is a skill set to being a cover artist, because you're not covering one band, you're covering a bunch of bands, and if you don't do it well, people let you know.
Yeah. Everyone would sit there and critique the way you're doing it, and you kind of need to do it exactly to the record, and it kind of depends on we have like scenes of you have like a cover band down in a local pub, and everyone's getting a bit drunk and having a dance around, and they want you to play certain songs, or we go and do like function bands and things like that, and they're probably not quite as picky, but and I don't think I could deal with someone coming up to me afterwards and telling me that I've played the wrong chord in a Whitesnake song or something like that. It's just
well, and I have a friend who he's a drummer like I am, and he talks about when he figures it out, it's note for note. It's because he in his mind, he doesn't want to ruin with somebody's memories, which is great. Yeah. My point of view is, I take the Stairway to Heaven story where it was take, I think, 17 of for John Bonham. It was, you know what I mean? So it could have been any one of 17 different things. That's just the one
Yeah.
that made the record, right?
Well,
So
yeah, exactly. That's that moment in time, isn't it? And like, it's like you go and watch the Rolling Stones and they play Tumbling Dice. It doesn't sound anything like it does on
right.
Exile. It's just that's just how they recorded it that day, which I believe that's how Keith wanted it. But Mick likes it the way that they play it live. But
Lightning in a bottle, right?
Yeah,
Lightning in a bottle. So you guys are you're capturing your own memories. So you're doing your own material. What is your scene like over there? I'm always fascinated because I grew up. A big part of my life growing up was Iron Maiden and Def Leppard and Saxon and that they call the new what was it, the new wave of British heavy metal. And it was always proficient. It was always, the musicianship was top notch. Even the punk thing was very cool. What's your scene like over there?
Yeah, I mean, we tend to play in a lot of the kind of like alternate rock things, but the bands that we play with are phenomenal. You'll go to quite regularly. We play at what we call the O2 Academy at Islington, which is they'll do like they'll have like touring artists there as well, and they'll put on like these sort of like promoter nights, and there'll be like 4 or 5 original bands on, and we've played there like 8 times, and not a single one of those bands has been like bad or even average. They're all really up there, and the musicianship is fantastic. There's a difference in the sort of the creativity in some of the songs, but whatever they do is always performed to a really high standard. So I mean, it's kind of like it's like this. I call it like the sort of the East London kind of like edgy rock scene, if you like. It's kind of you're on that side of town. You kind of know what the bands are going to be like, and we fitted in quite well there. It's nice. I like it. Yeah.
A stat that I heard, I think yesterday, correct me if I'm wrong, there's 25 million people in London. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's probably about right. Yeah.
So you essentially have the population of Canada in one city. That's crazy. So to put that in perspective, you could take the entire island where you guys live and put it in the middle of Canada, and it probably wouldn't even take up one of our provinces, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So what competition over there must be insane.
Yeah, it is. There's bands everywhere. There's just this and like I say, there's with all these so many of these nights, 5 bands on each time. We've probably played with the same band like a handful of times. It's new people each and every time, and there's clubs everywhere. Like people talking about recession and things closing, and pubs are closing. Like where people just go and have a drink and stuff like that. That's kind of closing down, but the venues are doing really well. But it's competition is really, really hard. So I live outside London. I live in the east corner, and I actually have my own studio down by the coast. And so we sometimes go out to places like what's called Folkestone and Dover and Ramsgate, where you get the ferry over to France. And that's got a bit more of a bit of a niche scene down there. Again, it's the same thing. It's kind of alt rock type stuff. Some of it like a little heavier. But you kind of, there's less competition down there, and you can probably get a better night actually.
Well, and I mean, I think people just got to stop watching the damn news, because I mean, it's I get I get the need to stay up on what's going on in the world, but it's just like you can't do anything about it. Make music, man.
Exactly. I mean? That's the thing. Like it's like if you just listen to that all the time, you just go insane. What's the point? Just go out and live your own reality and be where you are and do what you do.
You can't change it, and those people in power don't care what we think anyway. So
exactly.
So, so again, I'm always fascinated with the UK and over there. So when I was in Ireland 2 years ago, we were walking around and we found the street performer guy, and I videotaped him. It's still on my phone. He was playing guitar and he was singing "Truly" by Lionel Richie. He had a beautiful voice, and my first thought was, I'm in Dublin. Here's this guy performing on the street. He could be playing anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Anybody when I go home that wants to fold their arms and say that they're amazing they need to see this video, right?
Yeah.
Walk another 5 minutes. There's another dude doing the same thing, and it was just like, and both guys had fairly good audiences. Get down a little bit more. There's these 2 young bucks that can barely string 2 chords together, but I think they're doing like some Oasis song, and there's like 300 little girls, and I'm sitting there going, okay, thank God, I got to get over myself. It's not just Canada that they have this thing; it's over here too, right? So, is there that type of kind of vibe where you guys are, where you sit there and you roll your eyes, going like, okay, there's some really bad stuff that's getting attention, and we need to be getting more attention.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think there's just mere talent is not enough. Like it's like there's something out. Like if anyone knew how you crack the code, like you like obviously with the studio, we come across some fantastic musicians, songwriters all the time, and they're doing nothing. They're like they'll put something on Spotify, listened to by their parents or something, and that's it. And or like we'll get some band that's come through and they're just making a lot of noise and they're just doing a lot of stuff. If you could work out the secret sauce to that stuff and kind of bottle it and work it, but it's so hard.
I think it's very cool to go to, because I was in Cuba in April. I was doing a 80s theme rock week there, and we go into Veradero and we go into this bar that Ernest Hemingway used to hang out in, and this band gets up and they're four guys. Guitar player had two strings on his guitar and he made that thing sing. They were amazing. And then this lady, she had to be about 70. She gets up and she sings, and you would have thought it was like a 70-year-old Celine Dion. It was insane. And myself and my bass player going like, oh my God, this is embarrassing. Then they did it. No. One more, they all changed instruments and they were all equally amazing when they did that, right? And you're sitting there going, this is insane. So you gotta really be humble, right, in this business. People have to know that.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I mean, you say it's about luck, and there's always this thing about the harder I work, the luckier I get, and all this kind of stuff. But I think when it comes to music, it is kind of like what's the thing that's going on at the moment? Like what's and people are always talking about it all the time. Oh, this is at the moment. This is the thing that's selling, and you got to do this and you got to do that. Like we played with one band that hadn't done anything in 3 years, and they sold like 250 tickets for this show, and we were struggling to get like to 50, and we're like, how did you do that? And I said, oh, we put this silly video on TikTok and it went crazy, and then just loads of people have bought tickets like off of that. And like, so you then spend the next couple of months trying to come up with a silly video that's going to do well on TikTok, and then you kind of like start to hate yourself a little bit and think, what am I doing this for? I'm not like I want to play music, I want to do these things, I don't really want to do that. But it's just you've got to do what you got to do.
I think it's a guitar player in Slayer says he doesn't feel like he's a musician anymore. He's a t-shirt salesman. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, no, exactly. When you kind of boils down to it, like the kind of the fees and stuff that you get paid is just cover your costs for getting this. So, like you say, yeah.
100%. Yeah. Well, and just before we get into the music, that partly is into something that I've been asking people lately. So I don't know if you know who James Michael is, but James Michael is the singer for 6 a.m. So Nikki Sixx's side band.
Yeah.
He had a spoken word podcast that came out about 3 weeks ago, and the title was Why I No Longer Love Music.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it or I don't know if you tuned in. Essentially, it was he doesn't like it because people aren't being creative now. They're writing to an algorithm. They're writing to people that don't even give a crap about music and what they're doing, and it's very soul sucking. What would you tell me about that? Would you agree with that?
I mean, I think it's true. Like, I guess especially if you've had like the exposure of having like Nikki Sixx in your band and that kind of thing, you're gonna have that exposure. From our side of things, we know that we're going to put something out. We're going to put like so much into it, and we're going to put it out, and we'll, we feel like we're doing all right. When I look at the Spotify results, and it looks like at least a new person has listened to our band every day for the last 2 years, and I just think, for me, for someone who used to sell cassettes at the front of our gigs in the 90s, like I think that's fucking great. Like sorry, I didn't know we can swear.
Amen. Because there was a guy who posted something last week, and he was talking about people. He called them vanity numbers. They have millions of followers, but really they don't.
Yeah.
And they don't do any business, and it's about revenue. And he's talking about 35 solid people that's buy a shirt every 2 months.
Yeah.
$3,500 a year for you of revenue that you're probably not making off your music, right? So
no, exactly. But when we're writing like we're quite new as a band, and we wrote a whole new set, and we're thinking about it predominantly from a performance perspective. We'd want to write some like long tracks and maybe some slower ones or whatever. But we get 30 minutes to play, and you just got to be in someone's space for 30 minutes. And we kind of write those songs that kind of fit that bill. And so but then when we do kind of go from an arrangement perspective. We sort of say, okay, we need to probably, if this wants to get on something, we need to get it under 4 minutes or something like that. So
Right.
we do bring some of that in. But other than that, we're just kind of writing for playing and for the joy of it. We're not really at a place now where we can, I can see how that would suck the life out of you if you're just writing for an algorithm. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, then you hear that story that broke last week, the AI band that had, over 800,000. I found an article 2 years
Yeah,
ago that, hey, it's coming
yeah,
because, the theory is that the streaming services want to bump guys like you and me right out of the game.
yeah,
And the way
yeah.
that they do it is by putting these fake things up there that keep making, the indie artists fall further and further down the chain. So it doesn't surprise me. So in terms of your writing and recording, do you do it in the traditional sense? Do you go into a studio and kind of do it live off the floor? Do you guys do it, bit by bit? Do you do a hybrid? How do you guys put your material together?
It's probably a hybrid. Actually, during COVID, we kind of learned a good way of like a kind of dealing with it. Of just getting an idea down on a phone and flipping it to somebody else and stuff like that. I mean, we've all got I say there's 5 of us, and we've all got families and jobs and stuff like that. So it's really hard to spend the quality time. So I think the majority of our stuff is done as us sharing stuff around, and then we'll bring it to the rehearsal room and then kind of work on it as a team from there, and then take it to the studio. If we've got the time, we prefer to be able to sit in a room. Like I said, with the other two guys in the band, like we've been playing for so long, just jamming for 4 hours and a nugget comes out at the end of it is our favorite thing in the world to do.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
just having the time to do it is difficult. So.
Well, I'd love to get your take on this because when I'm a COVID project, like I
Mm-hmm.
never had any aspirations to start a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of happened. But one of the things throughout that, year and a half, and it was weird, is I myself and a couple other people kept saying the people who, don't sit in the corner and cry and figure
Mm.
out technology and take advantage of it and make it work for them, will, when things stop, they'll be
Yeah.
further ahead. Um,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it was the great reset, isn't it? It's like if you could see, you could sit around and mope about how things were, but people kind of realized nothing's going back to the way really it was. Things are going to be different, and
Absolutely. Well, and all you hear now is I'm old school. Well, old school to me says that you basically were one of those people that sat in the corner and whined and cried. And I hate
yeah,
to be brutal, but I
yeah,
mean, like it
yeah.
or lump it, our world's not there anymore.
No, exactly, and not just in music. Like like in businesses, like there's just all these businesses that came out of nothing. Like just because it just came out. Most of them are revolved around us having things delivered to us incredibly quickly. But
Yeah. Oh yeah.
but like yeah, it's just kind of if you when things like that happen, like if you just sit about, and this was a global reset of everything, and everything you once knew didn't exist anymore. So
Well, I'd love to get your take on this because one of the things that when things opened up, and I don't know how they did it over there, but they did it really like there was stops, there was starts, we're open, we're closed, we're open.
yeah, yeah.
But one of the things that they did is they had reduced numbers and everybody had to be sitting down. So I was almost like it
Mm-hmm.
reminded me like, you know, Elvis playing in Vegas in 1972, where you'd see those pictures, the ladies with the beehive hairdos smoking cigarettes, and but people had to pay attention,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
there was no dancing, there was no, play a dance ditty. They paid
Mm-hmm.
attention, right? Um, but one of the things that I kept saying, because everybody I would hear them say, "Oh, when it comes back, I'll never take it for granted." I feel it's being taken a little bit for granted now. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I think it is. I remember watching a football match, like watching a repeat of a football match, like 3 months in, and just seeing 60,000 people in one place, and thinking to myself, "Wow, did we do that?" Like, look,
Yeah.
is that what we used to do? And then you go and watch it, live, and it's just there's no one in the stadiums and stuff like that, and you think, "Oh God, yeah, like I want to get back to that." And but yeah, I mean, you very, very quickly just forget about that. And every now and then you'll walk around and you'll see like someone hasn't taken the sign off of like keeping your distance and all that kind of things, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I remember this." Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for me, it was I saw the mental side of things for people. I really did. But
Yeah.
for me, I didn't I it was very motivating because it was like I didn't want to be stuck in my house all the time just doing nothing. So I figured out stuff to do, and
Yeah.
here we are, you're number 785, my friend. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
Um just before we get on to where I direct people, did you take in any of the Sabbath show on the weekend?
I didn't. No, no, no.
Well, then we're probably the only two people in the world because I didn't either.
But Chris and Mark, when they went and saw Iron Maiden the weekend, they went over to the Olympic Stadium to go and watch Iron Maiden.
So how was the new drummer with them?
See, I don't know. So we argue about this all the time. Like, so you're probably going to cut me off now, but I'm not an Iron Maiden fan.
Okay, man, that's fine.
Whereas those guys absolutely love them. Like, you know, that's their big thing. They're the two of them, and so and we wind each other up. Like when they start talking about, I just sit there going, it's like whatever. So they said it was good. They said it was really good.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I've arrived at a pretty funny place in life there with music. It's like music is personal to you, right? So what you like is one thing, what I like might be another, and neither of us is wrong because it's what we like.
100%, and we've got to be like that.
Yeah. So amen. Shows coming up. You have any shows coming up in the next little bit?
Yeah, we're playing in 2 weeks' time. We've got our first festival. We're playing. It's called the Made of Stone Festival. That's here in the UK. Blackstone Cherry are playing.
Oh, nice.
But my favourite thing is Ugly Kid Joe are on the same bill.
Cool.
And you know, seeing them back in Brixton Academy in like 1991 and stuff like that. So it's that's a good moment for us. Like, to be honest.
I could be wrong, but the guitar player from Blackstone Cherry, I think it also was Damon that plays with Leonard Skinner.
Yes, I believe that's right.
And I interviewed him, and he is a friggin' really nice guy. Oh. I mean, I don't know how close you'll even get to, but just a super nice guy. And he played with Thin Lizzy for a bit, and too. So
yeah.
Where do I send my peeps, man, to find out about you guys and what's up? Queen Horizon.
So Queen.Horizon on Instagram. You can find us at Queen Horizon on Spotify, Queen Horizon on Facebook. We're on all of those things. But those are the main ones. You'll find most of our stuff on that. We're actually coming over to the US in October.
Okay, well, let me end on this because this was a topic in my neck of the woods over the weekend. You had to get visas to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You probably had to take a second mortgage out on your house to get the visas to do that.
Yeah.
How was that process to go through?
We're still going through it. So,
okay.
Yeah. So it's not the easiest thing in the world.
And it's big money.
Yeah.
It's about $5,000 US per person.
Yes. Yeah. So it's difficult, but it's it's an opportunity of a lifetime. So we can't wait to get out there and do that. And we're also looking to hook up with Gene Loves Jezebel, the UK version of that band. I say James Stevenson, who's the guitar player, like he's connected through a mutual friend. So we're trying to arrange some stuff for them as well while we're out there. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, Colin, my friend, the pleasure was all mine. I want to thank you for doing this.
No, thank you for having me. It's been great.
It's very late over there in the UK, so we.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's 20 past 11. So it's,
there you go. We're off to bed, my friend.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Peace.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Back after this.